In the NHL, there are 3 ways to build your team: through trades, through the draft, and through free agency. Meaningful trades can be tough to come by for some GMs, and the draft won't immediately impact your franchise for a majority of NHL teams. This leaves free agency as a way for teams to add a quick fix to their roster. But since a lot of teams have this same line of thinking, free agency ends up turning into a free-for-all for the top available free agents. Now, the thing with a lot of free agent signings is that they follow a buyer beware warning. You can give a guy a lot of money, but try to keep the term down, or you can give the guy a lot of years, but you gotta try to keep the money down. But with a number of other teams bidding against each other for the same crop of players, doing either of those things can be insanely tough. So once the free agent period officially starts, you'll see tens of millions of dollars being thrown around to players that you would have thought were solid additions to the team, but it's the term and the money that end up creating a situation where a player actually ends up having a negative value for that team. This isn't to mention the fact that a lot of players signed during this period have no trade clauses and no movement clauses, which make them even harder to move, further pushing a team down the rabbit hole. Now, this sounds swell and all, but there was one year where a number of teams all fell for the term and money bags trap, and that all happened in the 2016 NHL Free Agency window. In that year, there were 13 players that signed new contracts of 4 to 7 years in length. So let's take a look at those players and where they're at now. Looking at the 6 players on this list with the least term and annual value, we can see that none of them are penciled in for the rosters of the teams that signed them to their 2016 deals going into the 2020 season. One of these players, Troy Brouwer, was actually bought out by his original team, the Calgary Flames, since he was such a burden to them that they'd rather pay him to not play at a discount than pay him to play for the full salaried amount. You gotta admit your mistakes and cut your losses in a lot of these cases. What's also interesting about this group is that while Schlemko was jumping from team to team throughout the course of his 4-year deal, he actually ended up being traded in exchange for Dale Weiss, another member of this list. Next up, we have Darren Helm, who was the only member of this list that decided to re-up with his original club, the Red Wings. The 5-year term on this deal could have scared off a lot of clubs due to Helm being 29 at the moment of his signing, and due to his rugged playstyle, but clearly the Red Wings liked what they had seen from Helm previously. Now after Helm, we have our magnum opus of the 2016 free agency class. David Backes with the Bruins at 5 years by $6 million, Louis Eriksson with the Canucks at 6 years by $6 million, Frans Nielsen with the Red Wings at 6 years by $5.25 million, Andrew Ladd with the Islanders at 7 years by $5.5 million, Milan Lucic with the Oilers at 7 years by $6 million, and Kyle Okposo with the Sabres at 7 years by $6 million. Now just quickly looking at this list, Frans Nielsen looks like the best deal. He's played in a lot of games for the Red Wings, has put up meaningful minutes, and has done his best for a team that has been sitting at the bottom half of the standings for a few years now. But the other guys, oh man, those other signings were an absolute disaster. David Backes has an NMC and an NTC, along with a lot of bonuses, making his contract almost buyout proof. And his usage in Boston has been less and less with each year, culminating in a 20-point season in 2019. Louis Eriksson also has an NMC and an NTC for Vancouver, which is a trend you'll notice with this group, and his contract is completely buyout proof. The Louis Eriksson contract is one of those contracts that you get to ride out until the end of your career, and he's been doing just that, showing a lack of effort and only potting in 29 points in 81 games played in 2019. Andrew Ladd was brought in to somewhat fill the hole that the Nielsen departure had left for the Islanders, even though they both have very different playstyles. With Andrew Ladd, it's more of the same, NMC and NTC, and poor performances that didn't live up to the contract size. Same with Kyle Okposo, NMC, NTC, nearly buyout-proof contract. It's just more of the same, topped off with the same perennial disappointment of not living up to their contractual obligations. Now last, but certainly not least, we have Milan Lucic as maybe the most infamous member of the 2016 free agency class. Following the same trend as all the others before him in this class, he has a no movement clause and a no trade clause, along with a buyout proof contract. The length of Lucic's NMC means that he will have to be protected by whichever team he is a member of when it comes to Seattle's expansion draft. Unfortunately, as is the trend with the other players on this list, Lucic's career is on a downward slope, where in the 2019 season with the Oilers he only got 20 points in 79 games played. So there you have it, the disastrous free agency class of 2016 in all of its glory. So what's our lesson from all of this? Well, it looks like a big free agent splash may not always be the quick fix that it appears to be. And looking at these contracts, teams are probably going to try cutting down on the buyout-proof deals, as well as the deals with term and dollar value. But this is going to be extremely tough to do, as you probably already know, especially if you like a specific player, because the chances are that someone else is going to like him equally as much as your team. So let the bidding war begin. I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you in the next one.